they'll take the landlord's word for it. They say, here's your deal. They say, okay, thank you. And they don't realize that, oh, well, do you need new paint? Do you need new carpet? Well, we can still get you free rent on a renewal. Well, what is the rate? What is market? You know, the biggest problem with business owners, and I see this across the board for a lot of people, is business owners, like everyone else, think, well, I don't need help. I can do it. This is my business. I built this business. I don't need your help. I know what I'm doing. And you do know what you're doing, but you don't know what the market is. You don't know what buildings are leasing for around you, other than the word of your landlord who's making money off of you.
Welcome to the Small Business Safari, where I help guide you to avoid those traps, pitfalls, and dangers that lurk when navigating the wild world of small business ownership. I'll share those gold nuggets of information and invite guests to help accelerate your ascent to that mountaintop of success. It's a jungle out there, and I want to help you traverse through the levels of owning your own business that can get you bogged down and distract you from hitting your own personal and professional goals. So strap in, adventure team, and let's take a ride through the safari and get you to the mountaintop. And we're recording again, everybody. This is the Small Business Safari. Welcome back. We got another great episode. It's going to be hot. It's going to be big. And we're going to talk about shooting bears. Wait, wrong episode.
No, right episode.
Right episode. Let's get this done. All right. Today, everybody, we have the Jonathan Ellis experience coming to us. Who is the Jonathan Ellis experience? He is a commercial tenant rep here in Atlanta. I'll explain that later about what that is. Actually, I'm going to make him explain it because I really don't know, even though he put me in my own spot. But he is here and he goes, I don't know if I really want to do this. I'm like, son, buck up. You just got done shooting it down a 10,000 fucking foot bear. I mean, how big was that bear? He just put this bear out there online. I swear to God, it's the biggest bear I've seen in my life.
Show me a picture of this thing.
He was 525 pounds.
There you go.
So
that's enough bear for me because as a guy who hasn't, I actually have shot a squirrel. I have.
You got to start somewhere.
Yeah, that's it. I've started. And
was it a big scary squirrel, Chris?
It was. For me, it was.
You can kind of scroll over and see.
Oh God! So he's looking at
the size of the head on that thing,
which is amazing podcast material, Alan, because nobody can fucking see you.
Yeah. Okay. So it's really big.
Oh, good explanation. Well done. You know, I should probably film this because I didn't get done telling.
So if you want to have an idea of how big it was, I had it skinned out to either do a rug or a full body mount. I'm still discussing that with my wife. But the head and the skin in a 55-gallon trash can still weighed 170 pounds.
All right, Alan, bring that thing over here. I'm going to take a picture of it.
Yeah. I'm going to give you that one.
So it took two guys to lift it in and out of the back of my truck in a trash can.
So what does your wife want? Because that's what you're going to do.
That's what you're doing. Well, maybe he's the man of the house. You know, don't put him in the weenie mode that we are, because he's out there shooting 525,000 pound
and
bears.
He's from Canada. Maybe they do it different up there.
We do it different. She wants it nowhere near my house. So she said, really? She said, take it to the office. I said, well, nobody comes to my office.
That's exactly what. So I caught this huge striper bass and I got it mounted and I showed it to her proudly. And she goes, oh, so where are you going to hang that in your office? That's exactly what she said.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I said, maybe we'll put it in the basement. Maybe we'll put it on the wall. I don't know. We'll figure it out. It'll be a year before I see it again. So COVID has messed up even the taxidermy industry. And it's going to be.
That sounds like a supply chain issue.
Oh, yeah. COVID supply chain. I mean, how long are people going to use that excuse now?
Well, it depends. If you're a contractor like me, probably for the next 5 years. But
contractors will always use it.
Thank you.
So you shot that in North Carolina?
Shot it in Oriental, North Carolina, which is just north of Morehead City.
Can you narrow that in a little more?
So there's 2 points in North Carolina on the coast.
Okay.
And it's the top one kind of at the start of the start or end of the Outer Banks, however you want to look at it. So it's about 7.5, 8 hours from Atlanta.
You know, my first thought when you said Oriental, North Carolina, I'm like, you can't say that.
You're racist.
Yeah. I mean, what is he being racist? No, but that's really a city. So there you go. So they have bears next to the ocean.
It should be
so you're at the
Asian
ocean.
North Carolina.
Check this out. You go to the ocean hey, go in the ocean, get eaten by sharks. Come off the ocean, get killed by a bear. You know, I'm thinking to myself, you know what? Oceans are starting to look down.
Yeah, I'm not going to North Carolina beach.
See, I fell in love with it. I was like, man, you've had this on the coast, and you have fishing and the beach and bears.
Oh, we may lose Jonathan. He may be moving.
Maybe moving to North Carolina.
He may be packing up this awesome antique canoe that he has in the back of his house and moving out.
You got an antique canoe.
I don't know if I call it antique. So my grandfather built it.
That's even better.
And he spent, there's a whole story behind it, but he spent so many years making it. He's a Church of Christ preacher up in Canada, so he's really wealthy, has a lot of money. Just kidding. And he spent a lot of time and effort, and it took him like 3 years to build it. And he tried to pass it down to a bunch of different grandkids.
Is it covered with like canvas or what is
No, it's a wood canoe. It's a lake canoe versus a river canoe, if you know anything about them. So they're made for speed. I don't know. And they do a lot of lake trips and portaging to different islands.
I've seen it.
Camping trips.
I can attest to it. And I would tell you that it is awesome mahogany looking wood that is perfectly beautiful. And the whole thing is a beautiful piece that you would hang in your house before you would hang anywhere else. And he's got it wrapped up because I'm pretty sure the wife said that's not coming in the house. And he's like, but baby, it looks so good. Because this thing looks really good. It looks like it looks like a piece of furniture.
There's not a spot in my house for it. I mean, it's 17 feet long. So it's like maybe one day when I get a cabin, like Chris's, maybe. I don't know.
You know what I'm saying? Maybe get a bigger house.
Bigger house. Well, I have this bear mount coming now too.
Chris has the easy solution for everything.
There it is. Huh? Hey, sell a little bit more. Huh? Oh my God. Is this a business podcast that we're supposed to get back to? So we bring Jonathan on. And Jonathan, what the hell do you do?
So I specialize in helping small, medium-sized companies either find and either lease, buy, or sell their commercial office space. So I specialize on the tenant side, helping them navigate the process, making sure they're getting a fair deal with no hidden gotchas from the landlord.
Woo! Sounds like he's got a tagline.
It does sound like he has a tagline,
but that's a good tagline.
Yeah, and the thing that most people don't know about commercial real estate is people really do specialize. You know.
So let's dig into that a little bit because a lot of the people on the podcast are listening to it, thinking about getting into business. And one of the first things they do is, hey, I'm going to get into business. I'm going to find the best possible space ever. And I'm going to put the best possible stuff in there. I'm going to go shoot a bear. I'm going to put the bear in there. I'm going to put a big canoe in there. I'm going to build this whole thing out. I'm going to do $5,000 a month in rent. And I'm going to make $0 freaking dollars for 3 years.
And I'm going to call the person that sold me my house. That's exactly. I'm tracking, right?
Oh, here we go. Mm-hmm. So tell me what specialization means.
Well, if you are, I use this analogy a lot. If two people are going through a divorce, they don't save money by sharing an attorney. And the same's true in real estate. A lot of times I meet people and they say, well, I've got a great relationship with my landlord. I don't need your help. And I said, well, that's great, but you don't know what you don't know. You don't know.
And what you don't know may kill you.
And it may kill you. It may hurt your business. It may put your business on the hook for $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 that you didn't realize you'd be responsible for, and repairs, replacement, et cetera. And so for a service that costs the business no money, it's a no-brainer to use someone who is in the market daily, negotiating deals, making sure that people are protected.
Yeah, but I'm a smart ass business owner. I'm so smart. I mean, did I mention I'm really smart?
Yeah, you did, but you could
But
keep
I'm also
going.
an author.
Yeah, that's right.
And then
which makes you smarter.
So I'm going to go get my own stuff. Why do I need this guy? I mean, I just don't understand. Why would I need somebody to help me do something I'm really smart at?
Because he's going to cost me money. What you don't know.
What do you mean? I know everything though. What do I know?
How many jobs have you walked into that someone said, I tried to hang this fan or this light and it's just not working, so I called the Trusted Toolbox. It's something simple and basic.
754.
Yeah, exactly.
The sheer load.
So I tell this story a lot. Is I had a client or wanted to be a client who I bought my first boat from, and he and his dad had an insurance company, and he said, "Yeah, we need help with our lease." I said, "Great, talk to my dad." So I go talk to his dad, and he says, "I don't need your help. I've got 2 offices, and I've done this for the last 10 years." And I used to be in the car sales business. So he's an insurance salesman in the car business. He's a better negotiator than I'll ever be. He doesn't need my help. but he's paying 4% escalations and not giving himself any credit to what he needs to be doing and focusing on insurance sales. He's dealing with real estate. I do deals daily on in the market, and he thought that his 10 years of 2 offices gave him enough experience to get him a good deal, and he's paid way over above market.
Yeah, being a great salesperson, being a great negotiator is great, but you still don't know what you're talking about.
So back to specialization. So what kind of real estate is out there? If you're looking to get a space, right? We all own a home. Maybe we don't own a home, but let's talk about this because it's a big, broad spectrum that I know that both of you guys know. And so
we're both in commercial real estate, and we play in completely different circles, and the specialization can get really intense. So you've got tenant rep, you've got landlord rep. Chad and I specialize in investment purchase, but you could have people that specialize just in not only retail, but it could be shopping centers, or think about like if somebody came to me to talk about buying or selling a tower in Atlanta, I'd have no idea. I wouldn't take that deal. I'd have no idea how to approach that project. So the specialization could not only be in the vertical of the business, but it also could be in the geography. So
geography, I've gotten a lot of times, hey, I need help. My friend in Gainesville wants to open a restaurant. Well, I don't know anything about the restaurant industry. I don't know anything about the Gainesville market. I'm not your guy. You have office guys, you've got industrial guys, you've got medical guys, you've got retail guys, and they're all different categories within, air quotes, commercial real estate.
That's huge. That's the definition that I think a lot of us non-commercial real estate people need to hear, because you just laid it out there. You think you know your business, but these guys know this business, and this business is more complicated than you think. And because you think real estate's real estate, it's not, right? There's land, there's development, then there's all these other specialties. That's amazing that these people get into. So how do you go find somebody, and then how do you find the right person? How do you know they're full of shit? Because that's the big thing. Because you're like, hey, I got my real estate agent, and she's going to find this other great thing for me. And she's like, oh, yeah, of course I'm going to. Well, she's full of shit, but she's not telling you that because you don't know this. So how do you find these people, smoke them out, and figure out what to do? What's the questions?
That's a good question. I don't know that I have an answer to it.
Chris is on the board.
Yeah, he's on the dance. He's dancing because I got a good question.
That's the challenge for the business owner, to qualify who they're working with knows what they're talking about, because you see it a lot. And I probably see it more now than I did 10 years ago. Of there's a lot of residential agents that will cross over and play in the commercial market. And that's fine. They can do that. We hold the same licenses. But they're not doing their clients any favors, and vice versa. I've had friends, clients of mine say, hey, can you help me buy a home? I said, no, I can't. I don't know anything about that market or that industry.
Isn't that powerful when you tell somebody that and they go, you know what? I appreciate your honesty.
It makes me want you more.
Right? I agree, because I've used that in the trusted toolbox. There are things we won't do. I just got done talking to a guy today. He goes, you know what? I appreciate your honesty. And bingo, he'll call us back for other stuff, because I was like, nope, I just don't do that stuff. That's just not what we do. You want to find somebody who can really do gutters and roofs the right way, I can give you a referral, and I will. But this is what we don't do. He goes, wow, I appreciate that. Most guys would just say, yeah, I can do it. Mm-hmm. So that's huge.
And if you're a new business person starting out, it's tough. We've talked about how big of a whore, I guess you were, still are.
Alan, why do you keep bringing up that I was a whore
when
I was not
a hua?
Okay, maybe I was.
Yeah, but it's tough to say no to money and no to business. But the fact is you'll build a better reputation if you're actually honest and you just focus on what you're good at.
Well, I've seen this too a lot, and I use this with franchises, is when you're buying into a franchise and you're trying to start up and figure out what location you want to be at, and et cetera, they're pressuring them to find a location, to get a location up and running. But they don't say, hey, find an agent find a broker to help you find this and navigate this portion of it. They just say, where's your spot? And here's the guidelines for it, and run.
Right.
And I find a lot of franchisees get caught in a bad lease on their first go around because
which is death.
There's so many other things going on in their world that the location is only a part of it. They're learning the business, they're learning all the loopholes and all the training that they're having to go through and find a spot on top of it. And they're being pressured to hurry up and do it and get open. And they find themselves getting caught in a bad situation.
Who are the people you're working with the most? Are they people who are in current leases or people looking to get into new spaces?
They're in current spaces. Typically they're existing businesses. An existing business is always a better client than a new client. But there's always, the arena for the new business, the startup business, to see what can happen. From a landlord standpoint, they're higher risk. So do you want to deal with them?
Right. That's the big one. We just talked about that. We had Chris Hanks on a number of episodes ago, and he dropped this stat. I keep dropping like every day I can. And you remember that stat, don't you? There are 11,000 businesses being started every hour in the U.S. because it's easy to start a business, but it's really hard to run a business. So you guys specialize or look at people who are in existing spaces, not already started. They've already done the startup part. Now they're running. And that's the people you want to be with because that's a better risk. And you just hit on it. So when you're first starting, you don't need to go out there and find that 3,000 square foot space and make it look awesome. How many times have we talked to people on our podcast talking about this? I'm going to go out there and blow it out and make it look like I'm big time, because fake it till you make it, man. Fake it till you make it. But you're losing money hand over fist for a place that nobody walks into.
Do you find yourself actually, I mean, I know in real estate, it's not necessarily our job to counsel them on their business. You know where I'm going.
Too much, too much. And that's probably a flaw of mine because I get too involved in it, because I find myself more times than not trying to get clients to pump the brakes and say, look, we can always go bigger. It's a lot easier to go back to a landlord and say, hey, we need to expand. Do you have additional space in the building, et cetera, than it is to go to a landlord and say, we thought we needed this, but we haven't been able to fill it up. We don't need this. Can we give it back?
Mm-hmm.
No, doesn't work that way. And so that's always been.
They don't go for that?
It's frowned upon. A deal's a deal. And they want you to honor it, vice versa. But it's a I don't want to say a battle, but it is a challenge in trying to help business owners determine what it is they need and get enough for growth, but not too much where you go back into their office 2 or 3 years later and they still have 4 or 5 empty offices or this giant area that's being not utilized, and it's just a waste of money.
So when a client comes to you and says, I want a new space, you have to take them through needs analysis, right? Mm-hmm. You got to figure out what they want and start talking with them. Where do you start?
Typically it's with an on-site visit. So let me come in and see what you're working with, and then tell me what's going on with your business. If there's 2 parts to an equation, to kind of back up a little bit, is when I go and meet with new businesses, it's, do you want to renew your lease, or are you looking to relocate, to expand, or downsize? And then that kind of helps drive the conversation and figure out what it is that they're looking for. A lot of times people say, well, if you do want to just renew, great. Let's run with that, but let's keep that in the back pocket and say, hey, we love where we're at, but we don't want your landlord to know that. We want your landlord to think, hey, what do we need to do to keep these guys in our property versus losing them to a building down the street and so forth. And so from there, then you're able to go, okay, well, what is it you need? Right? What's your growth pattern? Am I sitting here because your warehouse is full of product and you don't have anywhere else to put product, and now it's in your garage and your wife's asking you, get the stuff out of my house? Or has COVID hit your company differently and now you were in 20,000 feet and you only need 10,000 feet because half your workforce is working from home? And so that's what we're dealing with today is what is it the client needs?
Let's talk about the fact that I think maybe the average business owner can see your value if I want to move. What's your value if they want to stay?
The ace of spades in your back pocket is use the market as leverage to sweeten your deal. I say that landlords get lazy and they're going to give you a deal that's attractive. Our role is to get you the best deal possible.
Because the average person listening who has a lease in place, they're thinking, okay, I've got a fairly decent relationship with the landlord. I'll just renew and it'll just kind of continue on the same trajectory it's on with the same escalations. So what
they'll take the landlord's word for it. They say, here's your deal. They say, okay, thank you. And they don't realize that, oh, well, do you need new paint? Do you need new carpet? Well, we can still get you free rent on a renewal. Well, what is the rate? What is market? You know, the biggest problem with business owners, and I see this across the board for a lot of people, is business owners, like everyone else, think, well, I don't need help. I can do it. This is my business. I built this business. I don't need your help. I know what I'm doing. And you do know what you're doing, but you don't know what the market is. You don't know what buildings are leasing for around you, other than the word of your landlord who's making money off of you.
Let me jump in, because I got to drop so many nuggets about how much money I flipping lost trying to do this on my own. So I had been in a sublease agreement with a longtime friend, and I decided to go out on my own, and I did this, and I negotiated my own deal, and I moved to this place, and they said, well, we're going to be around forever. And he was a single landlord, and it was his property, and I moved there, and it was right in the downtown area, exactly where I wanted to be. And literally a year after I had moved in there, did all my own tenant improvements. And by the way, I negotiated my own lease.
Good job, Chris.
I think I did good because I'm a great negotiator. Everything Jonathan just said, I just said to myself, could I have done better? 1,000% after I talked to Jonathan. So I said, you know what? We got to leave. And I started driving all over Duluth looking for the little city I was in, looking for things that said commercial space for lease. And I'm like, I want this. I want this. And I met Jonathan, and Jonathan's like, well, can I come see your space? He just brought that up, by the way. And I'm like, well, sure. All right, whatever. So I bring him over and I show him what I'm doing. And he's like, man, really cool. Love what you're doing. You know, he kissed my ass a little bit. That's cool. But
you do like that.
I do, because I'm kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
And so I love my ass. I don't like a kiss. I just like it rubbed gently. Just with cream, of course. And, but no, honestly, he came in and looked and he said, well, what do you want to do? And I said, well, I want to live, I want to have my office, 10 miles from where I live, and I need 3,000 square feet, and I need this, and this. And he started asking me all these detailed questions that I started answering over time. It took me a while. And he goes, okay, here's what you got. And he brings me back like 4 places. I'm like, well, dude, this sucks. He goes, well, this is what you said you wanted.
What do you mean this sucks?
I said, this isn't what I wanted. I went and looked at all these spaces. I said, because this next door, it said it was available. He goes, no, that's not available. I said, but this one next door says commercial lease available, brought to you by Alan and Chad Brown. I mean, right? No, kid, it wasn't. But
snakes,
right? And he goes like, no, it's not available. I'm like, but it says it is. There's a sign out. He goes, but it's not available. So I start looking around, and he goes, what's your problem? I said, you're telling me these spaces. I said, so what? He goes, well, you can either up how much you want to spend per month, or you have to widen your radius and what you want to do. I'm like, I don't like that. He goes, well, it's a choice. You tell me what you want to do, and we'll just do it. And I'm like, okay. So widen the radius, because I'm not going up in the money. So he starts showing me properties that are 20 miles away. And I'm like, well, I don't like this. He said, but this is the property you have to have based on your needs. And I was like, well, you're full of shit. You know what? I don't like you. I didn't say this to him, but I was a petulant little child.
Again,
of course. Thank you. And so I kept going, and we started looking, and I said, well, but how about this space? He goes, well, that's a single landlord, and they're probably going to sell the property for you. Do you want to move again? I'm like, no, I don't ever want to move again. I'm sick of this stuff. I mean, it cost me a lot of money. And we ended up in the space that we ended up in, because Jonathan gave me the guidance and helped me get to that spot of This is what I want. This is how much I was willing to pay. And the big part was I was not willing to pay a lot because I have a handyman company that nobody comes to my spot. I just need an area to train my guys on what I'm doing and store a little bit of stuff and then have an office staff. Nobody's coming there. He said, well, I found your spot. And he did. And to this day, where we're at is where we needed to be. But I didn't like it. And I was kicking and screaming. And I was I would say he won't say this, but I'll tell you, I was probably his bottom third worst clients because I was pissed.
Was he that high, Jonathan?
No, what's funny is
thank you, Alan.
Kind of going back is when I say it wasn't available, it's not that it wasn't available. It's just that you can drive around Atlanta and see real estate signs in front of basically every commercial property there is. And they say, well, what about this building? What about that building? Well, why didn't you show me this? Well, that building doesn't fit your requirement. If you need 3,000 feet and that's a 10,000 foot space, guess what? It doesn't fit your need.
Right.
I'm happy to put you in a 10,000 foot building. I'd rather do a 10,000 foot deal than a 3,000 foot deal, but you need a 3,000 foot deal. So that's what we need to find. And so we drove around and found it. But every client,
how do you manage clients like Chris?
Well, so you know what? Every client ends up being like Chris. And that's the funny thing is I can't tell you how many times people have said, oh, I've got to be the biggest pain in the ass. I've got to be your biggest pain client. I'm like,
because they think if they're a pain in the ass that they'll get a better deal, or
I kind of think that they know what it is they need and want, and we're trying to help them find that.
Yeah.
And sometimes we have to say, hey, look, what you want is not out there, or we can't create a space that doesn't exist.
Do you ever fire people like Chris?
Fire people. That's a tough one.
No, like Chris.
Like Chris. No, because I tell everybody, you're not a pain in the ass.
Can I break in real quick?
Yeah.
Screw you. I'm not that bad. Oh, okay, I'm that bad. And you know what? You're putting him on the spot because he can't say it because he just came on my podcast.
But it's true though. Is 9 out of 10 clients claim to be the biggest pain in my ass client? And I'm like,
oh,
no.
They actually they offer that up.
They all the time. And I don't have the heart to be like, y'all are all pain in the ass, because you're not. But everyone has their own kind of quirk or need or whatever it is, and that's just part of the problem that we have to find the answer to. And that's one thing that I really enjoy about this industry is figuring out a solution to the issue. And
we just hit on it. That's what I was waiting for. So I set it up because he did a great job. He had to negotiate a number of variables, but basically he was solving problems for people. And that's what we do as small business owners. That's what we do as we try to grow things, is we're basically trying to solve problems every day. And that's what we have to wake up every morning going, you know what, today I'm going to solve a problem. And today it's going to be the small, petulant business owner, Chris, who wants to sit there and stamp his feet because he's so pissed because he can't live 10 miles. He can't work 10 miles from where he lives. He has to drive 20 miles now. Well,
you
suck
could,
it up, big boy.
You just didn't want to pay
that's
what it was
probably
going to
true.
cost to be 10 miles away.
Well, I still think that was bullshit. But anyway,
you wanted to deny economic physics.
I did too. And I did. So here are the 3 phases of truth, right? First, you deny it.
Can't wait for this.
Number 2, you vehemently deny it. And I was in vehement denial. I'm like, he's full of shit. I'm going to fire him. He's an idiot. I can't believe it. I don't care if I've known him for 3 years and seen all these other deals he did. He's a moron. He doesn't know what he's doing. And I woke up one morning, I went, and the third phase of truth is you accept it as intuitively obvious. I'm like, well, he's right. All right, we're moving to Norcross. And here's what my employees have said to this day. This is the best place we've ever been in because it's right off the highway. It's right where they can get. All my guys are distributed across Metro Atlanta, which is hard to get around. They can get right off the highway, get what they need to get. They can come in for training whenever they have to come in, and they can get away. And where we were before, it was very close to my house, but very hard to get to. And so a lot of them had a hard time saying that to me, but I finally said, hey guys, it's all right. And then they all just came clean. We love this place.
It's like the stages of grief. You've got denial and then anger and then acceptance. Is that?
Stages. Honestly, that's a longer story. It's 8 or 9, depending on where you're at. But the 3 phases of truth are: number 1, you ignore it. Number 2, you vehemently deny it. And number 3, you accept it as intuitively obvious. And there ladies and gentlemen, I've just dropped some gold nuggets. I just did to myself.
Self-proclaimed gold
I
nuggets.
did. Yeah. By the way, but I was on
Why'd
another
you tell
podcast.
yourself, great job, Chris.
Golf clap.
God, great. Thank you, Jonathan. But it's true because when you're going through this stuff, no, it's true that I'm a god, but that's a different story.
Different podcast.
And the therapist engaged.
Are you trying to grow a
Again.
beard like Jonathan, by the way?
You know what? I don't think I could ever grow a beard like Jonathan,
I
but
mean,
I'm going
he
to try
looks
one.
like
I'm
he
going for
could just-
Christmas whiskers, baby.
He could just flex and pop out a beard like that. That's just,
You know, all right. So you can't see it on the podcast, but once again, we have brought in a younger, better looking person than us.
with a better beard.
And he is well more accomplished than us because he has shot a bear that's
Bigger than your house.
right. And he has shot a lot more other things. And then again, he's probably shot a gun. He's probably killed more things than I've actually shot a gun.
Well, he handed me his phone and he's like, yeah, you can swipe, and see more pictures of the bear. And after about 5 pictures, all of a sudden, oh, that's not a bear. That's something else he shot.
It was a good trip. It was a good trip.
That's the same trip.
That was the same
I mean,
trip.
some people don't get.
Long story short, some college buddies and fishing buddies, we went to North Carolina and we had a week on this property, and it was kill whatever you want as long as it's legal and in season. And I killed a deer, an 8-point deer, and then that bear. We were there to kill bear.
Oh,
that was
my
the-
God.
So
It's a bear.
How many shots did it take to kill the bear?
one,
Really?
One.
You had one kill shot?
yeah,
Isn't
that's
that's like a record, right?
So again, long story short, I hunted the stand Tuesday morning. I had about 10 o'clock. I had this deer walk out. So I shot him. I was like, we came to kill. We're killing. We did it. Check that box. And we were there to kill bear, though. That's what we wanted to do. And so I let everybody pick their spots and figure out where they wanted to hunt. And I said, well, I'll just go back to my stand. This is now Wednesday, and hunt the same spot, thinking, well, this will be a quiet spot, nothing that's going to go on here. And I have another buck walk out. I said, I don't need to take another buck. I've already got one. I'm fine. I'm here for a bear. And something spooks the bear or the deer, and about 3 minutes later, out walks this bear.
It was the bear that spooked the buck.
Yep. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, there's a bear. Holy,
Were you using the same kind of round on both?
same run. Yep. 308. And out walks this bear. I'm like, holy shit, here's a bear. Oh my God. All right. No babies, no cubs. Shoot, boom. And he takes off into the woods. I'm like, I'm pretty sure I hit him,
Okay.
but I don't know what a bear sounds like that's been hit or
Okay.
injured or anything.
I feel like we're going to the Ted Nugent podcast.
All right.
Killing
I know.
people.
I
But we
know.
got to go there. All right. So let's go back.
So
And
I don't find any blood. Well, I can't find. I go where I shot him. I see no blood. We come back an hour later. We look around in the woods. It's night.
And
it's
you're
dark.
thinking to yourself, there's no way I missed this thing. It was giant. I mean,
There theoretically no way I missed him, but yes, you can get excited, and they talk about bear fever and like just get excited and pull a trigger and miss. And I said, "There's no way I missed him," but I didn't want to say that and jinx myself. And so we all went to bed and got up the next day, and everybody else was going off to do these other things. I said, "Well, I'll just go find the bear."
wait a minute. You shot him and then went to bed.
you never found him.
Didn't find him that night. No.
Oh my God. Thank God that PETA doesn't listen to this podcast, but no way would
You
PETA
must have
find
been
this podcast.
pretty upset though, trying to sleep that night.
Well, let's
thinking,
back up though. He shot a bear and Bambi, what Yogi Bear just got shot.
Shot you- shot you-
You should hear Yogi and
Bambi's
and
dad.
Bambi. I know
Bambi's dad.
Bambi's dad.
Bambi's dad,
Holy
not
shit.
Bambi.
You were a killer. You're a stone cook. All right. So you went to bed. You couldn't find the bear. All right.
Couldn't find a bear. And so we called it and said, look, I'll come back in the daytime when it's light. And part of the group was going offshore duck hunting, sea duck hunting, if you will.
Oh, there's other animals to shoot. Go
yeah.
ahead. Yeah.
And
God,
so
what a day.
I said, well, y'all go do that and I'll stay here and look around the woods. So about an hour and a half into walking around the woods aimlessly, I happened to stumble upon this bear about 20 yards away. And I was like, is that my bear? Is that bear sleeping?
Oh
this-
my God.
Is this bear injured? I don't know.
So you poked it.
So I'm like, hey, bear,
Never poke a bear.
right? Don't poke a bear. I was like, hey, bear, like I've got my rifle with me. And I'm like,
Throw a rock at it.
So what'd you do? You had a rifle up.
rifle up, hey bear, walked up to him, poked him, and thankfully he didn't move. And I was like, holy cow, I found this thing.
Did you
Holy
walk
crap.
up to him, or you kind of just sort of like nervously walked up to him?
Nervously walked up
Okay.
to him is a very
I would say
accurate statement.
Doom, 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 doom. That's the way I'd walk.
I was thinking more like dun, dun, dun,
You
dun,
did the
dun,
tango
dun,
up
dun,
to the
dun,
bear?
I would
Chris?
tango up to the bear, and then I would. I wouldn't shoot it.
It was.
I
it
try to
was,
shoot stuff. I can't do it.
It was very
You shot a
nerve
squirrel.
wracking.
I got a squirrel.
Got a squirrel.
Thank you.
So
Squirrels are tasty.
It's 2.5 ounces.
a lot cheaper mount.
I'm going to make a great rug out of that
No.
bear, that squirrel.
Bear meat is tasty.
To be determined.
Wolf,
So yeah. So what'd you do? Yeah. All right. Let's talk about this.
So find the bear, clean the deer out. Buddies come back, and we have to pull the deer out. And I've got one of my buddies that are with me. We all played
They're all
football
like,
together.
I gotta gut this other guy's deer and bear now.
Well, I already took care of that part of it, but
The deer was gutted, but the bear was gutted too.
the bear was gutted. I had to do that by myself, which I'm not very good at. I throw up, gag. It took me about an hour
Really?
to do it.
Fair
You
enough.
could have seen.
That kind of ruined.
You could have
It kind
seen.
of ruined,
It was.
I ruined your manly thing.
Yeah,
there.
yeah. Like you should have thought. Like I should have had
come on.
blood all over my face. No, it
I
was.
cannot believe I let him get me in my new space. I wanted bear blood over his cheeks. I wanted across his forehead. I want him doing a seance or whatever they do around the bear thing.
It was more like. Look, 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 look.
That sounds like me waking up in the morning.
Yeah.
I'm
So
old.
So we got that. We got that part done, and it was cool and cold out, so it was fine.
We've lost Alan, and I love it. That's the best. When you lose Alan, you can't lose Alan like this, but you've lost
I will
Alan.
trust you forever. Just the fact you admitted that.
Yeah, it was not a fun time, but it had to be done. And I'm a big believer in like to pull the whole PETA part in. If you kill something, you need to eat it.
Yep.
Don't just kill for fun.
Right.
I mean, it is fun, but I won't eat it. And so I needed to get it cleaned out. So I did, and I was like, well, there's no way I'm pulling this thing out. It's twice the size of me, literally.
Right.
And so everybody came back, and we tied it up, and two of us had ropes around our waist, and we were dragging it out like horses.
Oh my god!
And you say dead weight. I mean, it was 500 pounds of dead weight that we were pulling out.
My gosh.
And so we got it out, and then we took it to a processor, and they skinned it, and they're processing it. So it's ready to be picked up. The catch is, well, it's 7 hours away from Atlanta.
Yeah.
So I got to go back up there next week with a buddy of mine in Greenville who's an architect who has a job in Wilmington, and we're going to road trip it, pick it up, and bring it back. I've got like 400 pounds of bear meat coming home with me.
I'm gonna buy a new freezer.
All right, Alan, you led that with it tastes good.
Yeah. No, I think bear meat is supposed to be really good. I've not actually had
It's
bear.
your lucky day, Alan.
I will take you up on
some
that.
bear
I'll
meat.
absolutely.
He's got somebody to get
No,
bear meat, bro. And you know what? Alan's a great cook.
I'll do it.
There's no way I can eat in this much meat in a year.
We're gonna get a lot of calls on this, Chris.
You
I'll
know
take
what?
some bear meat.
All right, if you're listening to this podcast, you want some bear meat, hit me up on my DM. Remember, this is Small Business Safari. Let's go, Chris Lalamia on LinkedIn or the customer service freak. Let's go on Instagram and TikTok. By the way, baby, hit me up. Let me go. If you want some bear meat, we got it. Let's go. If you're listening to this thing, get ready. Because I have no idea. I've never had bear meat in my life.
No,
I've had a lot of deer.
either.
Honestly, I've had a lot of venison that my friends have shot, and I would say it ranges the whole thing. You know, it's gamey to
And
great.
venison can be hideous. But
it
the
can be
bigger you
great.
get, like elk meat is wonderful.
It just
Yeah.
depends on when an animal's taken to
And what
how
they
it's
eat,
taken.
And then whether or not the guy who gutted it was gagging.
right.
So I feel like we're doing the Rogan podcast with the famous hunter who I still
Steve
really-
Ranella.
That's
Steve
it.
Rennell,
Oh my God.
meat eater. I love.
Oh my
I
God, that guy.
fall asleep to his
Oh, I'm
shows.
sure you do, and so I don't. By the way, because
I don't think Steve
never-
Ranella is going, ooh,
He's a Michigan
when he's
guy.
got-
by
He
the
is a
way.
Michigan-
He's a Michigan guy.
which is even crazier. So, truth be told, Nugent's from my hometown. And so I met the Nuge in my hometown because his daughter was playing volleyball against my girlfriend at the time. And I came up to him, I'm like, hey, man, the Nuge. And my buddy's dad went hunting with him. I mean, the whole thing is a great thing. The guy is actually everything you think he is. He doesn't drink a thing. He is an amazing thrasher on a guitar, but he loves hunting. I mean, he lives, eats, breathes out in the outdoors. And I was never that guy. I grew up with a father from the inner city of Buffalo. We ended up in this small town, and we were the guys who fixed everybody's cars while they all showed us how to fly fish and hunt. And
it's funny is my dad is not a hunter.
Oh, come on.
Not at all.
From Canada.
From Canada. We go up. We've got some hunting property
suburban
in Canada.
Toronto. That's, you know.
Well, his dad, my grandfather's a hunter. He's grown up hunting, and my dad is just not. We go hunting on hunting trips, and he brings a camera. He's like, I shoot a different kind of animal. So
really,
yeah.
So dad doesn't. So where'd you pick up the hunting?
ESPN Outdoors.
Who says ESPN isn't for
now, how old were you when you moved to the States? Because you do not sound like you're from Canada. I sound more like I'm from Canada than you do.
Exactly right.
So we moved to Atlanta in 92. And full disclosure, my mom's family all is from Atlanta. She grew up in Dunwoody. She's one of those rarities, born and raised in Atlanta.
So 92, for us all dating it, how old were you when you moved here?
8.
So you were 8. But you're so born and raised at 8, you moved here, and you moved to Dunwoody. And so Dunwoody for all of us.
No, we moved to Beaufort. So I lived in Beaufort. I lived in Beaufort before the Mall of Georgia.
That'll get the Canada out of you real quick.
Right.
And I went to school in Arkansas. So Arkansas.
Now we're talking language.
Pig Stewie.
Yeah.
So what Jonathan doesn't know, we brought him on this podcast, and he was like, I really don't want to do this. I'm like, dude, you got to do this. You're amazing because I love this stuff. And he's already dropped so many gold nuggets. What he doesn't know is we're actually in 6 continents right now. So people don't even know where the hell you're talking about. But what we're talking about is he came from Canada where they say, yeah, how about we go out in a boat? Yeah. You want to go? Yeah, I'm going to go with some. Hey, you want some beers? Yeah, with some donuts. Yeah, let's go. And
2-4.
And so I can actually turn on my Canadian accent better than he can. When I met him, no idea. He was from Southern. I said, oh my God, this guy's the biggest hick I've ever met in my life. And he's like, no, I'm Canadian. I'm like,
tell a lot of people I am a green card carrier
of Canada.
I am a Canadian citizen.
So we have a number of listeners in North America, Canadian, down to Mexico.
We're particularly fond of Canadians on this podcast.
We are.
Yeah.
And I'm very particularly fond of this Canadian. He's a great guy. So I love this guy. But when I met him, it was so hilarious that I met him and he said this stuff. I'm like, there's no way. And then he told me the story. I'm like, okay, I get it now.
Yep.
Yeah. So he goes to school in Arkansas where you can't possibly not get an accent when you go there.
I would think that probably gave me a lot of it.
Yeah, I think so.
But
actually, I'm going to say 100% yes.
But
I don't even know. I've never been to Arkansas. Have you been to Arkansas?
Been through it.
Okay.
It's a beautiful state. I love it. You know what? I realized how much I miss it once I left it.
Really?
Yeah.
I've been in 49 out of 50 states.
Have you really?
Yeah, all but Alaska.
Oh, you got to go to Alaska. It's beautiful.
I would love to.
Did you shoot a beer there?
Not yet.
Not yet. You've been to 49 of 50?
Mm-hmm.
I'm proud of you. All right. My God, we're getting way off topic because we're having so much fun here. But back to business.
This is more fun than real estate.
It definitely. Honestly, let's call it like it is.
Agree to that.
Dude. I mean, seriously, you listen to this podcast, you're like, you know what? I want to be entertained, but I want to learn something. But actually, right now, I'm thinking I'm kind of entertained.
But he's already dropped some great nuggets.
Yes. No, I know. Yeah. I don't think we have to.
I mean, bottom line of the big nugget is if you think you can negotiate your lease, you're a dumbass.
One. Go ahead. Keep going. Number 2.
That's it.
Well, can I put in nugget number 2? Because I think this is important for a lot of business owners to understand. And Alan will probably appreciate this. I don't care where you go. I don't care what building you go to.
Amen.
That's your deal, not mine. I just care that it's a good deal and you understand what it is you're getting into, because that's what our true value is.
How do you find guys like you though? That's the hard part, because you say, well, find me in Atlanta.
Apparently the woods in North Carolina.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but what if I'm in Oceana? What if I'm in Europe?
Anybody with a Salt Life sticker or a duck head on the back of their truck? No, I'm kidding. But
so
no,
what's the question we should ask, right? That's the thing. I think it's hard because I feel lucky to have found you because I think you really helped me. And Alan's my podcast host, and I'm not lucky to have found him. I'm thrilled to have found him, and it really is. But you guys have both come into my life, and it's been amazing. What's the question we should be asking? Because a lot of these guys don't have people who just walked into my life. I just got lucky.
Honestly, I think it's more of a feel than an actual question. I think that my industry is one that there are a lot of good brokers out there and a lot of good people. And there's also a lot of brokers out there that just care about collecting a check.
Amen.
And the important thing is if you're working with someone, you got to trust that person. And if you trust that person, you got to listen to that person. And if you can't do both of those, then you need to find a new broker.
There it is. Thank you. That was it. I didn't know that was the answer, but when you said it, I was like, yes, you're right. If you're in your gut, because you're a good business owner, right? You know how to run your own business. You have done what you had to do to be successful and get where you are. So you need to trust your gut. And if you don't trust this guy, man, get the heck out of there. And if you need to find somebody else, find another way. Get out there and get it done. Make it happen.
The catch is, the hard part is sometimes we're going to tell you something you don't want to hear. And
you told me a lot of them.
And that's where a business owner has to go off of how they feel about who they're interacting with.
Yeah. And that's where I trusted you. I mean, so again, to the three phases of truth, I was so pissed. And then I was like, okay, yeah, you know what? All right, he's right. And we ended up finding the right spot.
Honestly, Chris, were you pissed at him or just pissed at what he said?
I was pissed at what he said. I was never pissed at him. No, I always felt like, again, so
we need to go back and talk about your original deal, though, because you had spent a lot of money on your space.
I did.
And they said, hey, you got to move. And you were like, wait, what?
Yeah.
And you said, hey, John, my landlord just told me we're moving and they're selling the building. So let me see your lease. And immediately went for a relocation clause within the lease. And I said, Chris, you don't have a relocation clause. They can't just make you leave. Your lease is there to protect the landlord as much as it is to protect you.
Tell the listener what a relocation
clause. Go ahead.
Lay it all out there. Most leases will have a clause in there that says that if the landlord needs to relocate a tenant, their tenant, they can do so to a like-minded space and cover the costs, etc. Well, Chris didn't have that clause in his lease. I think your landlord offered you like $5,000. And
who negotiated your lease, Chris? That one?
The first one? That was me.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
By the way, I'm a really smart business owner.
Right. And
a big deal.
I want to say Chris had spent, I don't know, how much did you spend on your build? A lot.
$85,000.
And so they said, we'll give you $5,000 of that back. And so, Chris, you don't have
That's a pretty good return, huh, Chris?
I think not.
And so, well, if the landlord doesn't have a relocation clause and the developer that wants to buy your complex to knock it down and build 55 and over housing comes in, well, they can cover the costs, but they need to take care of it or else you're going to be here until your lease expires because they can't just terminate it legally. And we got you, what, $90,000?
Yes, he did.
Oh,
yes, he got me $90,000. How about that?
Wow.
Because originally he said, hey, what's your guy offering you? 5. He goes, nope. And he went back and on my behalf, and we got 90 to move, and we needed all 90 of it to move.
And by the way, Jonathan, who pays that commission?
The landlord.
Yeah.
So
I didn't pay him a dime.
So we got
he worked for well, I didn't pay him a dime.
And that's what most people don't get.
I know.
And so his landlord paid him $90,000. And then we went and found him his new space. It was pretty easy and smooth sailing.
It was. But yeah, once we found it.
I would say that you got probably 5 months free on that deal because you
signed
5 months on
the
deal.
And the front end for 5. Yep.
Which was let's call this just basic math. Let's say your rent's $5,000 a month.
25 grand.
25 grand on top of that.
Yeah. And I didn't pay him a dime. So whatever worked, it worked. And that's the thing.
Do you feel bad for what you used to think about Jonathan?
No, I say it like that. No, I mean, I knew it. I found it to be intuitively obvious pretty quickly that he was helping me. I was like, dude, this is the right guy. And that's why I've referred him to a ton of people since then, because we don't know what we don't know, right? And we're trying to run a business. And I started a handyman business, and I didn't know what I didn't know. And I had never been in the business before in my life. And I started working it. And I'm like, man, it's going to be the biggest success ever. I'm going to be a millionaire in 2 years, and I'm going to make it happen. And here I am 14 years later, still not a millionaire, and still trying to figure out what the hell is going on. But that's what we don't know. When you don't figure out that you don't know a lot of stuff, you've got to stop it. You've got to find out people who can help you better. And Jonathan helped me. And that's why he reluctantly came on this podcast, because I wanted people to hear this stuff. And I think this is the stuff you need to hear, because you're going to go out there and you're going to do this. You're like, you know what? I'm going to start a business. I'm going to do this. I'm going to negotiate it myself because I'm so smart. And you're like, no, you haven't listened to enough about what's going on. So if you need a tenant rep, go get him. If you want to buy some property, man, Alan will tell you exactly how to get this stuff done. If you're listening to this podcast, man, find these people. And if you don't know people, Jonathan and Alan are going to tell you their contact info again. And we are going to also let you know my number, and I'm going to get you in contact with them, because they might not know people in your area, but they're going to tell you the questions to ask.
And I cheated a bit. I listened to Chad's podcast, your partner, before, coming on here, and it's a great example of, we're commercial real estate brokers, but we're in different sectors,
right?
And I'm not in the investment sales and purchase.
Yeah, he's a wizard,
and
that.
and he is, and there's a value in both people's services depending on what the need is.
And we don't like doing what you do.
Exactly.
So I'm
exactly.
happy to refer you.
Exactly.
So you're saying again, right? Commercial real estate is a really big pie to be split up. And that's the thing. And so for us business owners trying to figure out which one to go with, we got to find people we trust, and you got to use what you know best. Use your gut. That's what got you. If you are successful, as we all need to be, because we keep running up that mountaintop of success. We're trying to get there. We're trying to be the guys we are supposed to be. We got to trust our gut, but you got to find people who can help you, and you got to be willing to let it go.
And Chris, I'm going to give you this. That's a huge nugget.
Thank you, Alan. Oh my God.
Look
hey,
at
wait a minute. Everybody
pause
for a minute, because I'm about to cry. I'm back. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, when you are an entrepreneur, the reason why you're an entrepreneur is you think you're awesome at everything, but you're not. So a smart entrepreneur will realize where their weaknesses are, where they can use help, and they get somebody like Jonathan or Chad or Chris or whatever,
yourself
or myself to.
We didn't put that in, but by the way, he's very self-effacing.
You're only as good as the people you surround yourself with.
You're exactly right, Jonathan.
And that's true in every different facet of life.
Well, and not only that, but you're better if you surround yourself with good people.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I was waiting for you to say something even more epic.
No, I just ended with that.
That was awesome. So, guys, if you've been listening to this thing, you've dropped some huge nuggets. Thank you so much, Jonathan, for coming on. He is the reluctant guest, by the way, because he didn't really want to do this.
You were awesome.
And he definitely did not want to tell you about how much he was killing bears and doing this stuff. But we did it. We outed him. He made it happen. This guy makes it happen. And you know what, Alan?
Yeah.
We make it happen.
I think so.
It's great
because
time.
This is the small business part. Did you have fun?
I had a great time, but I have to ask you. There's a question I need to ask.
Oh,
no.
What is your worst DIY story?
Nice. You want to know my worst?
I want to hear the trusted toolbox handyman's DIY nightmare.
I'm going to give you Chris Lalamia's DIY nightmare story. So Chris decided that he was going to fix his basement, and we put a pool in, and the water started leaking. And I couldn't figure out where it was coming from, but I wasn't going to call anybody. I'm going to fix it myself. And I could not figure out how to fix it myself. And I said, man, the water's coming up from the foundation. I can't figure out what the hell's going on. And so for literally 4 weeks in a row, I slept in the basement with baby diapers, making a dam, because the water kept coming up, because I couldn't figure out where the hell it was coming from. I finally had to give up, bring a waterproofing company in to find out what was happening. And I found out later that it was the gutter drains have been cut, and we did not have any more footer drains. I said gutter drains, footer drains cut. I sat down there every night with baby diapers and a wet vac, keeping the water out of my house when it would rain. It was the worst nightmare of my life. I literally got 2 hours of sleep every night.
All from downspouts.
All from downspouts. Now, for my company, it sucks, but I'm going to talk about this one. We made a big oops, and it was in a condo complex in the middle of Atlanta in a 1910 built apartment complex, and we were doing demo, and we were told that we couldn't find the shutoff. My guys believe that. We actually put a lot of processes in place by this, and we cut the water off, and it snapped off in the shower when we were doing demo. We flooded 3 floors of a condo.
That's where insurance plays a big role.
Where insurance plays a big role. And Chris,
you have a good insurance guy, I hope.
And I have a great insurance guy that we both might know. And I piss my pants forever. And that was so bad. I couldn't get there fast enough, dude. I was flying on the highway at 150 miles an hour in a pickup. And I showed up. I swear to God, if everything you thought about, if you ever watched the Fast and Furious, I parked my truck just like that. I slid that fucker right in the middle of 3 SUV Priuses or whatever they were, and I slammed it in there, and I go running in there, water's flying out of this freaking apartment. It was the worst thing I've ever seen. But we got it dried up quickly. I appreciate what my team did. It was horrible what happened to us, and we learned a huge lesson, but that's my biggest DIY and trusted toolbox story. But now I'm going to flip it over to you. What's your favorite feature of your house?
Mine would be my backyard. We bought our house because my wife said, I love this backyard. I want it. And our old house was 3 stories, one of those, grade, the basement, our deck was way up high. And we just had little kids, and we moved to this house that is a ranch that opened up to a great backyard that the previous owners had built out. And she said, I want this house. I said, I didn't really plan on moving, but okay, if baby wants, baby gets. And baby got.
There you go.
Gold nugget.
All right. Love that, baby. Baby wants, baby gets. All right. Number 2, when you're out, what's the biggest pet peeve of yours when it comes to
peck peeve?
Peck peeve? I was thinking about this because I was thinking about his backyard for a minute because I was thinking the bourbon's kicking in.
Or henpeck.
No, it's not henpeck. No, I've been to his backyard, so I know what he's talking about. But I was thinking about all the birds in the backyard. So
we wanted to enclose it, but we never did.
No bird cage. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
All right. So what is the biggest customer service pet peeve of yours?
Mine is just your typical promise to deliver something or quote you to do something, and then when they do the work, it's totally different.
I love that one.
So it's a hard one, especially probably right now with the way different products are and such, where it's hard to quote something and really know what it is, the cost will be. But I kind of use if you tell me it's going to be something, make sure it's that way. And when somebody comes in and says, oh yeah, but it's here and it's 4X what you said it was going to be, that's what bothers me more than anything.
All right. Number 3, I gave you my DIY and my company nightmare story. Thanks for flipping the script. What's yours?
You know what? I don't have one.
Wow. Dude, I can't. You know what? It's hard to be as perfect as you, John. Oh
well,
my God.
It's
he's Canadian and he's from the South. He is Ryan Reynolds and George Clooney all wrapped up in one. You're like, you can't do that, gardening gun.
And he's never made a mistake.
Never made a mistake. I'm always right. No, it's I mean, my biggest DIY problem is like you go to change the fan and it takes longer than you thought it was. Like I kind of feel like I know
sucks.
I know my
wah, wah, wah.
I know my area of limitations.
So you don't work on houses much yourself?
I do to a point, and I'm fortunate to have a very handyman dad that typically I'm like, hey, Dad.
Oh, nice.
How would you do this? And what are you doing right now?
Nice.
Can you come over? And he lives 2 miles from me, so it's helpful.
All right. So his DIY neighbor story. I should ask his wife, hey, what's your DIY?
Right.
Every time we have something go wrong in the house, next thing I know, John's dad's here.
Yeah. I mean, that's really it is I try not to take on a task that I'm not confident in. And if I don't know what I'm going to do, typically 9 out of 10 times, I'm going to call Chris and be like, hey, Chris, can you send one of your guys?
All right, that's true.
I mean,
we used to have a professional handyman that lived next door to us, and his name was Bruce. And anytime anything went wrong in our house and my kids were little and they're like, oh, let's just call Mr. Bruce. And I'm like, hey, give me a shot at it first.
Dad's right here. Dad's right here.
Exactly
I'm
right.
Dad. Hey, I'm your dad. I'm the big man.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you didn't shoot a bear, did you?
No, but I did call Mr. Bruce.
Yeah.
Quite a few times.
But you know what? Now his kids are going to go, hey, Dad shot a bear.
yeah.
The rest of their
You know,
life.
the favorite feature in his house should be the room where the freaking bear is going.
I think that's
Make
going to
sure
go.
my wife hears that.
Yeah.
Make
Yeah.
sure my
And
wife hears
the canoe and the bear, Mrs.
All right.
Jonathan.
The canoe,
I'm a-
honestly, the canoe needs to be cut in half and used as bookshelves, but
Oh,
I could never
no,
do that.
no,
I could never do it.
No, I
I could
100%
never do
no.
it. Well, the problem with it is such a beautiful piece.
It is.
Like,
I mean,
will
I've
send
seen it.
you-
I'm
I'll send you a
promise you,
picture of it.
It
so you
is so beautiful.
you can put it on your social
Please send me a
media.
picture because people don't understand. This thing is
It is
like
a
fine furniture.
beautiful. My
Yeah.
dad and I drove from Canada down to Atlanta on Thanksgiving Day with it
Yeah.
on the top of cars because we're like, how do we get it to
Yeah,
Atlanta?
that's not far enough for a
And-
thing like that.
I mean, Ellen, he's going to send me a picture, and I promise you, and everybody listening, this will be,
And your grandfather
most-
made it.
My grandfather made it.
and that means a ton. I mean, that'd be something that.
The funny part is, I know we got to go and
No,
wrap it up, but the funny part is my dad, who's the only son of my grandfather, who's got 2 sisters, never was given the option to be like, do you want this canoe? He passed it to 2 other grandkids, and then I'm the 3rd grandchild that was like, I'll take it.
Oh my!
And my
gosh.
dad goes, what about me?
Hey, how about your son? I'm right here.
I'm your son.
Still here. You know what? And you will find out because Jonathan is clearly, again, we brought younger and better looking people on here.
Mhm.
He'll find out someday that grandkids are more important, though neither of us have them. Thank God, by the way. And I
Right.
make the sign of the cross right now as a Catholic.
Good job.
Oh, thank you. But I will take him eventually. But that's been amazing. Adventure Team, this has been an amazing episode. Hopefully you picked up some gold nuggets, especially when it comes to leasing. But Jonathan, how can we get a hold of you? Push some of your stuff. Let me know where you're going from.
So call me 770-891-6781 is my cell phone. Emails jmellis at m3commercial.com. That's it, really.
There we go. So, Small Business Safari, if you listen, just come on, man, like me. Tell me you love me. Follow me. Rate me.
You know, you're kind
Tell
of
us
a big deal. You shouldn't sound so desperate.
I shouldn't, by the
No.
way. You know what? Because shameless.
Screw you if you don't like me.
You know what? By the way,
Yeah.
Rogan, shameless, and what's that meatless guy's name?
Smartless is what you're-
The meat guy.
Steve Ranella.
You know what, Steve?
What about Door Bumper Clear or Dale Jr. downloads? Like, we
You know
didn't
what?
get in and ask for it.
Oh,
Like,
I know. You know
this
what?
is part
I-
1A.
This is definitely part 1A.
Yeah, you're
because
coming
there's
back.
so many NASCAR shit things that we could have talked about because I have so many NASCAR buddies that I can't get on this podcast because like, well, we don't think we could. I'm like, I can't even name all the names. I'm like, so I had 4 guys turn me down. I'm like, really? You're like, oh, we don't think so.
One of these days they're going to be begging,
I'm like,
Chris.
but you build the biggest. Well, I'm going to drop him right now. You build the biggest Ford engines for all the Ford winners. You are the guy who just got unseated and everybody makes fun of, and the other guy is the guy who brings all the tires around. I'm just going to name it out there. I'm going to put it out there in the universe, and then we're going to call it good because John's going to say, I know who they are. You don't know all of them, but you do know 3 of them.
I'm just fine coming back and just talking NASCAR for
Let's go talking NASCAR. Hey, Small Business Safari. I hope you enjoyed this. Let's go racing.
Oh, wow.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
You know what? Let's go boogity, boogity, boogie. We're out of here and
Cheers.
we gone.
Cheers.